So, um, as I was talking about the last time, I got my Padme character all colored, shaded up. I added some little drop shadows to the characters, and I also finished coloring little Annie. Um, yeah, I haven't done the lightsabers really yet. I'm not really worried about those right now. But what I wanted to do now is, some of you, may have noticed, but I've got this layer here that is my perspective grid that's in the background. And I shifted it a little bit just to push everything back. I think that originally I had it down, like this, and it just felt like Maul was really close to the back wall. And because I've got all of those, you know, Naboo Starfighters and the hangar that I wanted to draw back there, I decided that I'd move it back a little bit. Now, in drawing that hangar, there's a lot going to be going on there, and it gets a little bit difficult to draw. So you see that when I was drawing, you know, all of the colored characters, all of these guys here, I actually pulled in references, right? So I don't just draw completely out of my head. I've got references here so that I can look at the characters' clothing, their style, their hair, their boots, the fun little braid. I want to be as true to the characters as possible, but still give it my own look. So then what I wanted to do is, in building the scene out here, I wanted to add those hangers. Remind me later. I wanted to add the hangar, the Naboo fighters to the hangar, but I didn't want to draw those completely, and I wanted to have a 3D look. So I started to look online a little bit, and I found this really cool 3D model that's on Sketchfab. And you can see here that, you can rotate all the way around it and really get a good feel for everything that's happening with the ship. This is great for reference. But, this one was not available to download. So I looked around a little bit more, and I found this one that is a little bit simpler, a little bit of a simpler model, more simple model. And it is available to download. So I went ahead and downloaded that, and I want to show you guys how I'm going to use this. So right here in between my colored characters, which is those guys, and my perspective grid, I'm going to come up here to my 3D tool, and I'm going to say make a new layer from a 3D file. So I've done a little test with this already to make sure that it works properly. But what we've got here is, if I scroll down a little bit, we can see here that I have this Naboo F for fighter object, and I can open this up, and it actually brings in, this video is not gonna go super fast. There it is. I now have a 3D model that's loaded into my scene. So I can come over here to the left-hand side of this toolbar, and I can grab this little arrow, which is my 3D space. Oh, before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this down a little bit there so I know where my horizon line is. When you go to rotate the model or move the model, everything blanks out, but it'll leave that. So I'm going to move the model up to my horizon line like that, and then I'm going to take, and I think that I've got to use my mouse, and I'm clicking on the arrow on the left hand side there, so I'm going to go to the 3D object rotate, and I'll continue just using my mouse. So I can rotate a little bit there, but I can also see that I need to roll it a little. So I'm not a super 3D model expert. I've done it before. It's been a long time. So it's fun that what's happening here is the 3D model is lining up really nicely with the center of my screen. So if I take and put that there, that will represent, the model, the plane right back there in the back. Now, there's a hangar. Let me see if I can grab another image really quick. Let me pull in another reference. So the Diorama Workshop guys have this awesome web page here. Thank you, Frank. And they've got all of these screenshots that they've pulled from the movie. So I can use this as reference as well, and I can see how the hangar works, all of the fighters that are there, and each one of the fighters has its own little cubby in the back. So what I want to do is put the ship here in the back, but then I want to have, you know, a couple other ships. And I want to draw them all, but at the same time, I don't want to have to think of it all from out of my head. So I'm going to duplicate this layer and make a new ship, and then I will take and move the new ship all the way over to this side, and look at the way that it rotates. So it's working in 3D space, and as I move it across that horizontal plane, it's actually shifting the 3D, and I'm really happy about that, because that means that I can now get another perspective on it. So there's my Naboo fighter over here. I'll go ahead and move it all the way off, and as I continue to rotate it, that means that I'll get, you know, that same spacing as well. So now I can see that I have a space here in between those, right here in between those characters, that the ships, that I can actually take and draw in, you know, the columns for that part. Now the other thing about this is these are going to be printed out onto 3x5 cards. So here's my outline for my 3x5 cards there in green. So, you know, I might want to take this center one and move it over a little bit, just so that it splits right down the middle, and then something like that. And then I'll go ahead and duplicate that layer again, and then drag it all the way over to this side. So now I have the three ships there in the hangar all ready to go, and it's got the proper perspective. I didn't have to, you know, figure out how to draw these things perfectly every time. I can just, you know, use this as a reference. Now that I have these in place, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and right click on this guy, and I'm going to convert the layer to a smart object. And it takes a second for it to do that. So my objective here is, by converting each one of these layers to a smart object, I don't need them to be 3D anymore, so it'll cut down on the file size a little bit, make it easier to work with in that way, but also it will help me so that I can take and create a new layer out of all of these, and then just drop them all together into one layer. So now all of those are in one layer. I will hide my grid and then I'll take my perspective grid and I'll drop that down. I don't need that as much anymore, but I can also take and drop this down and then create a new layer, and now I can come in here and use this 3D model now as a as a reference, and just draw right on top of it. So in this way, oh, sorry, I'm trying to draw around the camera. I'll rotate that a little bit. So in this way, what's happening is I'm actually, you know, able to use the model, but I'm not gonna, you know, just leave it in there and then, you know, Photoshop it up. I actually want it to be all hand drawn. So I'll go back over this all. I'll draw out the whole ship, play with the colors a little bit, and then when I'm all done with this, we'll see what happens. Because this is going to be in the background, I'm going to end up blurring it out, and actually just, you know, for fun right here, I'm going to go ahead and put it all the way back up, bring my characters back in. Where are my characters? There they are. Bring my characters back in, and if I take this layer and do filter, blur, Gaussian blur, whatever it is, Gaussian, I can see that that's really blurred out. But I have to decide how much detail I'm going to put into that, because I'm just going to end up blurring it out anyway. The problem is that this, even though it is blurred, because it gives that depth of field to it, it still looks like a 3D model because it's got lots of detail in it. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this whole thing out. And after I've drawn it and colored it, then I will blur it, and then that way it will be a drawing. Oops, wrong layer. And not just me putting a 3D model into my artwork. So I thought that was a kind of an interesting process that I'm sure that I'm not the only one that does this. The thing about drawing is that, there's more to it than just, drawing over the art. I'm going to make it into my own. Oh, wiggle the camera a little bit there. So that's a little wonky line there. Undo that. That's the other thing, is that the Naboo fighter is very streamlined, pulls back really a lot. So I'll accentuate that a little bit there. And that one goes right off the screen. I'll go ahead and bring up this layer 100%, see if there's anything that I'm missing in mine. There's a slight detail here, some little details there. Maybe I'll add a little bit like this. Something like that. Some little details in here, and then like that. And this way, I'm not happy with this line. This way, I've got my coloring all roughed out. Oh, let's go ahead and put R2 in there too. So this one that's on the far right hand side, I am planning on putting R2 in there, but I'm going to have him looking over at Annie. So we'll put this up top, and then, again, this is not going to be super detailed because it's all going to get blurred out. So I'll just rough in some of the shapes. So now that that is roughed in, I think I want to go back and give it a little bit of a thicker outline. So I'm going to take my brush and I will increase the width of that a little bit. Maybe not that much. And just to make those edges pop a little bit. And then just like I did with the other character drawings, I like to draw in red just so I can see how, you know, it really stands out off of the page here a little bit. And then when it's all done, I'll make it into a black outline. Because I'm operating over to this side a little bit, when I zoom in, it's, oh, when I zoom in, it's acting a little bit wonky. Oh, that's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. I just have to stop before I get there. Huh, cool. Some sort of a glitch. That doesn't happen with a normal paper. There we go. And then this is the front side of the wing. Make sure that's nice and outlined as well. Whoa, now it's going crazy. All right, so there is my Naboo Starfighter. And now that I have that there, let me make sure I'm all squared up again. I'm going to take and right click over here on the layer, and I will paste the layer style. Oh, what layer style did I have? A drop shadow? No, that's from a different project. I will do a color overlay, which is double click to bring up the layer style menu guide. And then I will grab a color overlay, and instead of this red color, we'll go not 100% black, sort of a charcoal. It's not too harsh. And that's that. And then I will do a layer underneath. And I'm going to grab some colors. So I'm going to take this layer and just move it up for a second. And then I'm going to take this layer and make it the 100%. Actually, changed my mind about that. Let's move that back down. Oh, I don't want to go that far. Let's see. What was I doing? I was trying to read your comment there, Jeff. A globe swift would just blend in there. I don't know what a globe swift is. Oh, is that Chris Reef's plane? Yeah, I'm sure we could hide that in there just fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide my drawing for a second. I'm going to do a new layer, and I'm going to bring this one up to 100%. So with this layer selected, I'm going to grab my brush, and I will grab this color right here just to get a little color swatching going here. Grab a silver color here. Oop, wrong button. Put that swatch there, and then I didn't remember that that was blue like that, but we'll see. And quite honestly, I think that this yellow looks a little muted. So let's try and liven this yellow up a little bit. Ooh, not that much. That feels a little bit better, a little bit brighter. And then I will grab a quick R2 color as well. And then I will turn back on my drawing, and then on this layer underneath I'll start to block in these yellow. I got to remember where they all are, so I'll start with a little yellow around here. Color that part in. Not really worried too much about coloring outside of the lines right now. And then this part is the silver, and then that blue color on the tail there. Well, let's go ahead and I'll continue with the yellow. That's yellow. That's yellow. The whole body is yellow, and one little spot right there on the tip of that wing. So I'll grab that spot before I forget about that. And then all of this part here. And in here, and then this part of the body. And then, like in the video that I showed yesterday, or that I recorded, a little live video, I'll just go ahead and take all of these colors once they're all in. Is that part silver? Yep, that part silver. Once that's all in, let me increase the size of my brush and fill that. I kind of like using a brush to color it in, because it's akin to using a marker, and not 100% of the color is filled in. So in that way, it's more hand drawn. Then we'll grab that blue color, and we'll zoom into this one and color that little bit on the end there. And a little bit there. And then I think that was all of the blue, and the rest is just silver and then shading. I don't know about the cockpit being silver. I might make it a lighter tone of this blue. So let's go ahead and copy that, put it over there, and then should we just lighten it up? Maybe desaturate a little bit too, so it has a gray tone to it. It's still light blue. Let's see what that looks like for our cockpit. I actually was I was a big collector of the Galactic Hero toy line. Originally, the series came out, was produced by Play School, which firmly secured its place as a preschool sort of a toy. I'll do this too. And as such, you know, the little chubby chibi characters, they didn't have, their guns couldn't come out of their hands. They didn't move at all, no choking hazard with them. It was a fun toy. So I collected those, and as I was thinking about how I was going to do this project before I remembered, you know, the 3D idea, I was thinking, well, maybe I should get down my Galactic Hero Naboo fighter, and I'll just take and I colored over that. I'll just take some photos of that in place. And then I thought, yeah, but if I take a photo of it and then I've got to move it around and then get the right perspective, I really want to modify it inside of of this environment, so that way I have more control over it. I'm being a little sloppy right here. That's okay. It's just a demo. So, this, and I'll reiterate this for those of you who maybe join in late. The artwork that I'm working on right now is going to be a series of cards that I'm taking with me to the Star Wars Celebration event. So it's the 20th anniversary of the Phantom Menace, and the Star Wars Celebration is happening in Chicago next month. We'll partially be celebrating, the Phantom Menace, but just Star Wars in general. At the convention, they have a family room where you can take the kids and take a little break. And I guess you don't have to have any kids to go in there, but it's a place that is some place to take a break, get away, and do some family-focused activities. They've asked the Star Wars artists that are going to be part of the show, which I am, to participate in there and teach a little how to draw classes. And that was actually the way that the Drawing is Simple coins started, is because I had that request to go and teach in the family room. And as I went to teach in the family room, I wanted to develop a system that was easy to teach, but also it was something that was effective in teaching. Hey, Paul. So all of these characters and the character styles are all based off of the Drawing is Simple coin that I have patented. Very pleased to say that. The next goal is to figure out how to, make money from that patent. I guess I could just sell it, but I don't think the world knows what it is quite yet. So shortly, I'll have this all colored in. We'll color R2 those same kind of colors. Again, R2 should be a little bit lighter. So let me take that swatch, and I grabbed a little extra there. Take that and lighten it up a little bit, and then select that color. And then from here, I'll fill in all of R2. And then come back on the top with that blue, and I'll get my brush really small to do these little details in here. And I'm not super concerned about the details for this part, just because in the end it's all going to be blue anyway. Something else I'll do is I kind of like those highlights that I put on the cockpit. They're a little bit rough, so I'll clean up the highlights a little bit by coming back in with the blue and just giving that a little bit of smoothing like that. And then with that, I made the R2 dome color a little bit lighter, so I'm going to grab that light color and I'm going to come here onto the Starfighter, and I'll add a few streaks along the highlight areas there as well. It was one of the hallmarks of the episode 1 vehicles is that they were shiny. Come in here, put a little highlight that way, as well as right in there. And then, since I'm doing highlights anyway, I'll grab this yellow and make a copy of that, and then make it a little brighter, and select that to do some highlights on the yellow, just for fun. Yeah, I'm doing these highlights and I'm just remembering, oh yeah, but I'm going to take and blur this whole thing out, so we probably won't see any of this anyway. So now that I have this all, wow, that was wild. I'm rotating my canvas there. Now that we have this all highlighted, I'm going to, or filled in the colors, I'm going to go like this and draw around those colors. You can see the colors there. And I'm going to duplicate that layer, and then I'm going to fill that in, not with white, select the layer, and then I'm going to fill that in with black, and then I'm going to come down here. If you guys saw this on the last video, each one of these character videos, like little character drawings like Anakin, if I find Anakin right here. So that colored part there, it has a color grade overlay on it. So I'm just gonna take and copy that that layer style, which is that nice purple color overlay, and then I'm gonna come up here to this black layer that I just made on the Naboo Starfighter, which is this. That's the lines. That's the shading there. I'm going to take that layer and I'm going to paste those layer styles. So now it has that on top of it, and then I will drop the opacity of that down to 60%. I did it already. 60. Seems like it might not be enough. And then I'll use my eraser that is this nice spongy sort of a look, and I'll come in here and start to wipe out some of this. My intention is to add those shadows, but also make it appear as if it were color processed, you know, with some actual pencils and crayons and whatnot, similar to the style of the little golden books. Make it small, get a highlight on the top of that wing there, down around the front. And in essence, that's that. I'm going to take and label these so I know what's going on. That's my line layer. This is my shading. This one is my fills. And then this one at the bottom is my references. And I will take all of these and drag them into their own folder. And this will be the Starfighters. Now I've got that there, I'm going to actually take, on the fills layer, I'm going to select my color references and the swatches, and I'm going to say a layer via cut, and then, oops, we'll rename that layer to swatches, and then so I'm going to take this and I'm going to make a duplicate of this whole block and then put them all together. So now I have just one layer with the Naboo Starfighter on it. And what I'm going to do is, because this takes place, this is back in the distance, I'm going to take my filter and I'm going to turn on that blur, and we'll see what the Gaussian blur does to it. It seems like it's a little much. I want it to be back in the distance so that you can see that depth of field, and it just doesn't detract from what's going on in the foreground. Just makes it softer. I'm going to check my preview a little bit. Yeah, I think that's good. So I'll go ahead and put a note on here that says blur at 5 so that I know what I did to that one. And if I don't like that one, I actually have the full set of them right here, and I will put those in a folder and call that Right Fighter. And now I can turn that one off, and now I have the fighter there. So that's the process that I'm going to go through as I build out the rest of this scene with the Naboo Starfighters and Obi-Wan, Anakin, Maul, and Padme. I'm going to add my battle droids getting blasted in there as well. And then I have the rest of those other two fighters that I'm going to draw. But this is definitely looks better to me than just putting a blur on these 3D models, but I could not have generated all of those angles as quickly as I did this way by doing it with the 3D model. So that was fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed sharing with you a little bit, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.